We are live.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the Chair, Barry Bialik, and I would like to welcome you to the January 7th, 2020 Affordable Housing Advisory Committee meeting. Let me give you a kind of brief overview of the committee. Our committee is made up of nine members, and all committee and members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through committee meetings a little bit differently. We're streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website, and also linked on the committee page. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone. For those of you out there today with us today, welcome. I'll now go through and introduce all the committee members who are participating virtually. Committee members, please make sure to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. When you have a question, and if you'd like to speak, unmute your microphone. Please remember to unmute your phone to speak and mute your phone after you are done speaking. This option is *6. Committee members, as I call your name, please say a quick hello and that you're here. I'm here. Scott Adams. Don't think Scott is here. Dewana.
Good morning.
Good morning. Paul Heathman.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Happy New Year.
Brian Methvin.
Good morning.
Joe Eichelheimer. I don't think she is there.
I'm here.
Morning, Joe. Amber Banks. Don't think we have Amber today. Margie Bukowski. Margie, unmute to say you're here.
There we go. Everyone, I'm here.
All right. Parker Smith. Don't think I saw her on there today. And Andy Barnett.
Morning.
Good morning. All right. I think I got everybody there. That means Amber and Scott are not here. Okay, we're going to start our committee agenda items now. First up we have on our agenda is approval of the minutes from last month. As everyone's had an opportunity to review them, would someone like to make a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay. We have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any discussions about them? I kind of read through, saw that they were amended. I'm good with them.
Mr. Chair, this is Sam Powers. If the folks making the motion and second would identify themselves, it will help our record keeping.
Okay. So I think our motion to accept was made by, I believe it was by Paul. Is that correct?
No, that was Brian Methvin. I made the motion to accept the minutes.
Yeah, Brian made the motion to accept, and then Margie did the second.
All right.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll go through it's a little awkward. We have to go through a formality roll call just to accept these. So I'll call your names. If you could just say aye when I call you. So I'll give an aye. Dewana.
Aye. Aye.
Paul. Yeah, thank you. Paul Heathman.
Aye.
Joe. Hey, Joe, I just need an aye from you.
Aye, sorry, I was muted.
Yeah, no worries. I think we said Amber is not here. Margie did the second. Parker. Aye. Parker's not here. And then Andy.
Aye.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Sorry for the awkwardness of that. Community development updates. We don't have an updated, I think we're still running off of last month's updates. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that, Paul, or if we have any questions from last month's that we want to bring up?
Sure. So good morning, everybody. Paul D'Angelo with the Community Development Division. So we do our community development updates, I think, as you all know, off of HCD, Housing and Community Development meetings, which are the third Tuesday of the month. So we'll have an updated community development update on this January 19th. And then those updates will get not only posted on our website, they are shared out to our community development listserv. So if you're already not signed up for that, make sure you're signed up there to get a informational link and notice that those are out. And then we usually try to do a press release. Since there wasn't a meeting with HCD in December, we don't have any immediate updates again until January 19th, but I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all might have about what's on those updates, which is pretty consistent, just updates on projects of about 6 to 8 pages.
Does anyone have any questions for Paul from last month's updates?
Yeah, Paul, I do have a question. This is Joe. Where do things stand with the scattered sites, the city-owned property? I know that applications have been made for that back in the fall, and that had been pending, and I'm curious.
Sure. So that we have those proposals in. We've done the first round of evaluations on those. I think we're regrouping in a couple of weeks here, and then I think a decision will move forward with the development partner that's selected in February or March, and we'll get those moving for those. I believe it's the 3 parcels that we have. So it's moving, just got a bit delayed towards the end of last year. Should hear more about that in February and or March.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Was there going to be any more public engagement meetings on that, Paul?
On the those 3 scattered sites, actually, I think that was talked about at the last meeting. Nikki Reed is on this call, so she might have an update on that. I believe we are considering doing one more public engagement.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. Any other questions for Paul? Margie?
Yes, I wanted to find out, last month we had Charlie Pond, and I wanted to find out if anything else has happened with the home ownership on the condos at 49 Biltmore, or whatever the address is.
So they, it's the NAIR group. They are still moving forward with, I think, 2 homeownership development sites. They are hoping to add some affordable homeownership units to both of those projects, as Charlie presented last month. However, none of our policies at the moment really can do much for them. Any of our policies are subsidy to help make that happen. So they're still moving forward. They still would like to provide some affordability. We are trying to see a couple areas where we can help them out in, and those are at the informal discussion at the bottom, Margie, that I'll bring up then, if that's okay.
Okay.
Barry, can I add one other thing?
Yeah.
So just quickly, the CD updates have been, hopefully everyone has found those as a very good resource. We are considering, we'll decide this next week, of moving out the CDBG COVID dollars maybe into its own separate 2-page document. We're starting to get a lot of questions about, hey, how's that money being spent? How's it being used? What's an update? What are the other resources? So we're considering separating that out and kind of having 2 CD updates. I'll let y'all know next month, but we're considering kind of making a separate document for that. We're doing our best to, I think, doing a very good job of keeping up with the potential funding. We also want to make sure that we're a resource as well if people reach out. So additional information if they see that document, and then of course they can call 211, et cetera. So that's just something to be on the lookout for, that we might do that for clarity purposes next month.
Okay. Has the project, I forgot the name of it, the one out in Oakley that was going to be the 10 affordable housing homes when we talked about, Paul, is that, was it, I don't remember the name of the developer, but that's the one that went through and then it looked like it's not going to go through now. Is that officially
unknown at this moment, Al, or Barry? You're talking about Al Clements development out at I think it's Alice Place Lane. Yes. Al is still working through a couple of his financial issues on the front end, and we're still at the table. I think he may come back to us for 4 of the units to still do as affordable. We did reach out to him last week or this week, I guess. And so we're waiting to see, but hopefully he'll still move forward. Right now, it's a little bit unknown.
Okay. And do we have, so basically the funds are allocated from the trust fund and then they're just not dispersed. So at some point, a call will be made whether that just returns to the trust fund balance.
That's correct. And that's already come up as a question on our end of if an award ends up not being used, how does that come back to us? And I don't think there's anything in a policy or anything like that. And we want to get clarity on that. As an example, there was an award that came out of AHAC and HCD about the garage conversions, and that hasn't moved forward. So we're trying to figure out what exactly that looks like to be a good partner to the developer, but also, we're supposed to be doing our best to do things that are shovel ready. And so we're trying to keep an eye on that. So we'll have some clarity on that.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Paul? Okay, I guess we'll wrap that up. Thanks, Paul. So we'll have, next month in February, the updates we get will be from the middle of this month then, is that right?
January 19th, HCD, and you'll hear all about it at AHAC on February 4th.
Okay, great. Actually, no, I have one more question. I guess it's not, might be later. You'd said there might be some updates on down payment assistance. What is the status with that?
Fasten your seatbelts. It's supposed to go to HCD on January 19th. So
great. Okay.
It has not been moved off the agenda. It seems to be the only thing on the agenda. So wish me a little luck there, but yes, we're excited to see what we can do with that. How the partnership plays out with the Federal Home Loan Bank for that higher amount, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'll be able to present more information in February.
Okay. Does anyone, since there's some new committee members who weren't on the committee at the time that was moving through, does anyone have any, everyone familiar with that? Does anyone have any questions for Paul about that before it goes to HCD? Since it's not really on our agenda. Andy?
Yeah, Barry, I guess I don't get to fall into the folks who weren't on the committee when that happened. I do have the question. Are we holding the subsidy caps at each income tier? Are those staying the same as they were originally drafted? I mean, obviously this has been in the works long enough that market rates have changed and those original subsidy caps may no longer bridge the gap for folks.
Andy, it's like you're in my mind, and that is one of the discussion items that I'll be looking at next week when I try to develop that staff report, but that's where I think we will go to up those a bit. So I have some thoughts. I'll let you all know with all of that in February.
Okay. So if there were, I'm just, I guess that just out of clarification, my understanding was like it was what the main thing we were waiting for was approval of the lending partner who would administer it. If there's like suggested changes to that, is there a reason that didn't come back through us, through our committee for discussion? It seems like
it's welcome to come back if you all want to do that. We want to try to get this moving. There's I think it would be the third-party partner asked for 3 small changes to the policy. And I'm happy to share that with you all. If you want to, I can bring that to AHAC in February and move HCD till we have to push it till February. But I think the changes are small enough that it's nothing that's too heavy at all regarding this policy. However, if you all want to see that first before HCD, I can do that. It would just push HCD back from January to February, which if I have a say in that at all, I would prefer to move. But it's up to you all, I suppose.
No, you prefer to move it or not move it?
I would prefer to move forward to HCD in January, and I can certainly welcome you all to that and share the staff report specifically with you all in advance. I can make that promise, Barry.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't want to slow it down. I'm just curious why, because it's something we ask about it. I know we bring up and ask about each meeting, and just if it's moving forward, why that wasn't brought to us is like, hey, this is good. I mean, it was mentioned last month that it was moved, that it could move, but that to bring any discussions about how it might change through us before it goes to HCD. I understand we don't need to know who the partner is, but since it's something we've shepherded for so many years, it would be good to have that input if there is going to be a change before it went on to HCD. But I don't want to slow the process. I'm just curious why it didn't come to us first.
So it all just happened earlier this week and last week during the holiday that we were able to get that on the agenda and to move that forward. So, to get the kind of thumbs up as we move forward with that. So this has all just happened. But again, if you all want me to bring it forward to you all, I can.
I have a small question. So would the subsidy cap increase, would that be changed prior to HCD approval, or is that something that can come after HCD approval?
So the
If
plan,
you want-
sure,
Yeah,
the plan based on my workload at the moment is to look at that policy with the recommended changes from the third-party partner, which again are a couple small things. And then I want to review the policy just to see. And the only thing that I saw in a brief overview was potentially raising the subsidy cap for that down payment assistance. So that is the only thing that I can see right now that could be a part of the change. So I know, Barry, we've been open about trying to get this back on the agenda, getting on the radar for the second floor, getting it back to HCD for that official policy, like basically just selecting a third-party partner. So I'm happy to share that staff report, which will be done probably no later than Wednesday at 5 p.m. And I can share that with you all.
Okay. Is this something again, I don't want to push it too much, but again, it's coming up that we're working off of outdated community development update, not really outdated, but it's like last month's community development updates. We have basically something which was pretty important that we've been part of shepherding through that we're not seeing before it goes to HCD is I guess that raises that question that's come up in the past. Is the time we're doing our date proper, or is there too much of a gap between our meeting and HCD that then you're not able to, it's like your staff with your limited capacity doesn't have the time to prepare the needed stuff for our meeting, but, in time for HCD. Is there something we should look at with this gap, or what are your suggestions on that?
Sure. So outside of this DPA policy, we've been able to bring everything forward to you. The DPA has just kind of been on a shelf for, 12 to 18 months, waiting for the third-party partner for us to be able to move things forward. So that's never an issue. We did, with everything that's going on and with all the additional work around COVID, we had requested, slimming some of the meetings and maybe putting them on the same day to get everything kind of at the same place. What we had requested was, instead of having to review the HCD or the community development updates twice a month, if we could just do them once a month and review those once a month for that storytelling, we would appreciate that, because it can take some serious time to work through those if we had to do it every 2 weeks. We'd rather do it once a month if that's okay.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah, I understand. It's just in some of these months, it's like your development updates are going to be done after our monthly meeting, but before the HCD meeting. So with that gap in time, it means we would be reviewing community development updates that HCD has already seen. So
that's correct.
We'll be a month behind, and I think our role as an advisory committee is supposed to be on the front end of that.
But they're just community development updates, Barry, not policy updates. But
Sure.
So, we do those once a month for HCD, and it's just to inform the committee and the community about the happenings of what community development is working on. And that's what that update is. But there isn't any decision making in community development updates.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, it's something we'll just watch that time. I know it's been, suggested, Sage, past chair, had suggested we kind of bridge that gap and maybe move our meetings to that same day or closer. And, we determined that it wasn't, that would be difficult, but, it may be, I guess we'll just watch this, but it is, I just find it a little frustrating. And I think other committee members might feel the same, that, this is something that we've been we've been part of making that happen for years now as well. And then to have it move forward without having some last input on not just the partner, but, some technical changes but I don't want to hold it up. I mean, because I've seen.
Well, again, if you would like to bring back and see those policy changes, let's just do it, Barry, and we'll move it to February. I don't think the decision of the third party falls within the realm of AHAC. I think that's HCD, and that's the main thing that we're deciding. Perfect. If y'all want to see the policy again, it's been on that shelf waiting to go to HCD. So I apologize if it looks as if we're trying to move it forward. I'm just trying to move it forward based on all the conversations this last month. So we're doing our best here, but you all can tell us what you want to do, and happy to do what y'all wants to do.
Okay. Andy, did you have something?
Well, Barry, can we maybe just, in the interest of keeping this thing on its January timeline and having a little bit more of our oversight advisory function, can we just hear what the, other than the, the subsidy cap, and you've mentioned two other possible changes, can we just hear what those are in concept and kind of agree as a group that we don't have, there either aren't or are significant concerns about those in concept, and keep this on track?
And again, I can do that in concept, Andy. The one request really that I can think of from the third party is that they would like to make the loan not forgivable so that they can keep the funding moving, so that we don't run out of funding, that they keep the funding moving. And this committee went back and forth about that, and I know Kathy wanted to make sure that she wanted to make it forgivable after 30 years. The third party partner has requested that not happen, so we actually have funds that continue to go into the community. But again, it's on my workload next week to review that policy request.
Okay, so to me, that does seem like kind of a big thing. And are you saying, so what would be the repayment period if these were not a forgivable loan? Is it due on sale?
It remains
a loan, but it's due on sale.
Paid back upon sale is what they've requested.
And is there a rate attached to that?
I believe so. And again, I have to review those materials that have been on a shelf for a while.
And this is Scott. Just had a quick question on nomenclature. It seems like a forgivable loan is an oxymoron. Typically, that's known as a grant.
I believe it's a loan that sits out there, and then it was talked about as being forgivable loan if they stayed in the house for 30 years was the original policy.
Okay.
So again, sounds to me like you all would like me to bring this back. So I say, let's do it. I'll contact Kathy and move it off the agenda and move it back to February.
Do we want to go through and do a roll call vote to see? Because I'm mixed on that. Let's just do a quick. Sorry to bring this up, and I didn't that it's taken this much time, but I think this is a pretty important thing. Can we do a quick? Is that Andy? I think you and I are the ones that have some of the most hesitance on this. Does that sound a fair way to do this? We'll take a quick roll call vote to see if we should ask this to be brought to our next meeting, or we'll say aye if so. We'll do aye if we want this to be postponed. Andy, you have something?
Well, one more question on that, if we can. So, if this goes to February, what's the actual delay in implementation, right? If we get this, is your third party in a position where if this goes to HCD on January, they're going to be able to start deploying these funds in January? Or, how much should the urgency of getting this in front of HCD and council drive our decision about whether we want additional oversight?
From the talk over the last 12 months, everyone wants to try to get this funding moving. The big question were two things that we've solved. One thing was finding a third party partner. The second thing was getting it on city management's radar. With this year of COVID and everything else, it has been difficult to get things with everything else going on. So now that we've got the attention to move it forward, I'm excited to get it to HCD, then it would get approved by council. And I believe the third party can begin, whatever they need to do by hopefully maybe getting funds out in March. I would hope to get to council on February 23rd is on my list to get an agenda. So January 19th at HCD, February 23rd at council, and then however long it takes the third party to get the funding moving, which I don't think is long. They're pretty seasoned at that effort of moving money. But again, what that would mean would be February, whatever that is, 20th for HCD, we could go to council in March.
Right. Barry, I'm on the fence.
I'm on the fence too.
I'd like to see it again, but I also know with this thing, if it pushes out a month, there's a huge chance that
No, I know. Yeah.
kicks it out for 6 more months.
Yeah.
And we found these things with this program before that were like
No.
almost to the finish line, and then we find it.
And
I
Barry,
agree.
I think, I'm in communication with a lot of folks on this group. And if y'all feel like I made a bad call on that, I can accept that and the fact. But this has been, as I've mentioned, probably at every meeting, my Achilles heel of trying to get this on the radar and moving forward. I personally, I'll do it either way. I guess I'm on the fence with you guys. However, I feel like it's a fair proposal from the third party, and I would like to get the money moving.
Yeah.
Other side of the fence, it's a potentially month delay. Although if I had to make a choice and point it to a corner, and if it was my choice, I might swing to Andy right there, because I know what happens when we move things a month in advance and then something else jumps on a calendar. I can think of a few things right off the bat after Andy said that. But again, you guys provide the guidance on policy. That's your major role. Can commit to sharing, the report when I'm done with it on Wednesday. But again,
I think that, I just look at it like Andy's on the committee. There's 3 or 4 of us on this committee who actually will be using these funds, and Paul Home Trust might be riding along with them with other loans, so that we're ones who will be using this. But yeah, I've also seen too many things stall, and we do, if we do have the opportunity to review that ahead of time, we all do have the opportunity to attend HCD and give our comments. And maybe what we do is we make sure we slot at the HCD meeting the opportunity for our committee to speak at that. That might be a way to compromise this. But just to note, obviously you can see a little bit some of our displeasure that it didn't run through this. So maybe just to note for the future, and whether if there's anything we can do to accommodate with dates to bridge that gap, or just to see, for us to note the importance of that stuff to run through us before going to HCD.
Sure. And Barry, again, I will put out my apology to the table there, but please know, I think this is the only anomaly I can think of in my 3 years at the city and with this committee, that this has been how are we going to move this forward? The flip side, Barry, is what I can do is commit to trying to get something even earlier. So maybe I could get a draft available Monday, so that if we had to call some emergency meeting towards the end of next week with AHAC for discussion, I assume there will be discussion at HCD as well, because as you all know, the discussion just on the front end to get where we finally got was a lot of discussion, but we did find a partner who did recommend a couple changes.
Sure. Okay. Andy, are you good? I mean, I'm inclined to let it roll. Okay.
Can I ask, is there another, is that the main of the, you said a couple changes, is that the main one, or are there other?
I think that is literally it. And the one that came up to me was, should we increase the cap? And I think I'm leaning towards recommending, I think it was 35,000. I think we should up that to 40. But again, I think y'all know how I work, like prioritizing what's up next on my plate. So that's up next on my plate to look at beginning of next week. But by 5 o'clock on Monday, I'm happy to make that commitment to get that draft to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Paul. All right. I think we're good. Any other questions on updates? Okay. Thanks. So the next step is, we have the list of available homes, which are prepared and provided. And, I think that the reality of that is why I think it's so important to move this, to not hold up this down payment assistance. I think that, one of the glaring facts on that you'll see is that I tightened that down to that list being only within the city of Asheville and below $275,000 for single family homes. There was, I think, only 17 homes total in the entire city, which is obviously all real estate agents are saying that's the lowest inventory there's ever been. It's scary, that, and especially knowing the new stock that's coming on. It's not like there's a plethora of new construction homes coming on that are being priced less than $300,000. It's so I think that definitely sets are, the reality of those numbers are sobering. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or suggestions on how those reports can be prepared differently?
No, but I do have a question, Barry. I was just curious. I mean, it just seems like I'm obviously for capitalism, but it just feels like that there's a whole plethora of home builders that are going for, I mean, no matter how small, $500,000, the condo. I mean, they don't even think about, and I've talked to a few of them, let's try to make this reasonable. What can you do to make this 300,000 and not 500,000? And not everybody's coming from California. I mean, what about people that just don't have that kind of money, don't have $50,000 to put down on a house? I'm just wondering, Paul, I mean, are you talking to people about how not everybody is made of money in this city?
That's what I tell everybody, Margie, but no, totally, absolutely right. And I mean, it is a challenge that we continue to see. I think we might talk about this a little later with our infill developers who, like, I think I've told this group before, some of the quotes I get from infill developers in particular, Margie, not the larger big developers, is y'all make it so difficult to build houses for, with the infill for $300,000 for this, the cost going up because of X, Y, and Z in your ordinances. Guess what? I'm going to build a house and I'll sell it the next day for $500,000. That has been a pretty consistent quote now for a year, which is why I'm glad that this committee is taking up the discussion of infill development, at least to help with some small local developers and regional developers who want to be a part of the solution.
Yep.
Paul, I have a small question around it. Is there no form of ways of placing some accountability? I know we have some policies around that reaching those building for less, you know what I mean? And some supports and credits and different benefits to people who can build for under 300,000. But even in with the community that I work with and filling that gap to be able to afford those homes, which might be a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home that 3 years ago might have went for $245,000 or something like that. You know what I mean? And now they're going for $300,000, $400,000. Like the people who need it most that are the people who need it most that we are that just in general, us as AHEC are looking at trying to increase the housing stock. Is there no form of, I don't know, if it's another benefit or what would make the developers more appeased to develop develop houses and price them at a lower rate for affordability?
I mean, if that's for me, Dewana, our basic thing around affordable housing is the city either needs to subsidize on the front end with the builder or on the back end with the homeowner. So obviously the back end homeowner is with down payment assistance and or our partnerships with Habitat, ABCLT, and MHO. On the front end to subsidize the developer outside of Housing Trust Fund, we really don't have a big tool available to be able to assist them to help buy down the price of something outside of the Housing Trust Fund, where we could lend them money at a very low interest rate, for the construction period. We are trying that, as you all know, with the 12 condos that we're supporting, that we're actually subsidizing, almost playing the role of the lead bank with 12 condos, the Pineview development that went through HCD the last couple months and then approved by council. $1.2 million to that developer for 12 condos priced between $199 and $239. So we're trying to be innovative like that. And then we're also trying, as you might hear more about today, is what can we do with the development process itself to make it easier and more cost efficient with small infill developers. But as I just talked to Andy from Habitat the other day, we're certainly not throwing our hands up, but the tricks of home ownership, I don't have a lot of tricks in my my bag at the moment on how to figure that out. I do know, hearing people say if that we might be a part of the problem, that is something that we need to figure out, because for people to say, y'all make it too difficult, I'm just building $500,000 houses, we need to change that narrative.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later, Duana. But I think the list of properties and seeing the dwindling inventory is definitely a reality check. And I think, yeah, we're going to discuss and really focus like our year and our work plan really just on identifying those changes and how we can as a committee assist in them. And to your point, Duana, how to try to spread the load to other builders to say, you're part of this community. You need to, maybe one out of every 10 houses, you need to price differently. It's just really kind of appeasing to their hearts. But we will talk about that later. But is there any other, on those lists I've provided with the homes for sale, the homes under contract, and the condos, any other questions on those other than Scott?
I'll just make a quick comment. I'm actually in the process of planning to build a house in West Asheville. So one small addition to the housing supply, and got the appraisal for it. And it notes in there that housing supply, at least in the larger West Asheville market area, is decreasing by 3% a month. So food for thought.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Yeah, it's scary, and all the realtors are aware of how insane the market is right now.
I'm very curious with the year-to-year report, Barry, that they'll put out about how much prices increased last year. I think that's going to be, when we checked it in September and December on a specific date, I was kind of shocked. So I'm curious what the year-to-year will be.
Yeah, it's pretty sobering. Okay, great. Thank y'all. Let's see, unfinished business in our list. We've got, new committee members. So applications, I'll just brief real quick on that. So the applications were due, I think it was December 28th or 29th. It's going to the boards and commissions this coming Tuesday. We had a fair, we had the previous applicants from September, and then I think 3 or 4 new applicants in December. So that goes to boards and commissions on Tuesday. And I believe there's one, I saw something in our agenda about on the meeting notes about 2 seats. We just have 1 seat we're filling. It's just Sage's seat. Yeah. But so we should know, it should get appointed, that new committee member should get appointed Tuesday to fill Sage's seat. Our work plan, item B. So what I'm going to do that. I have that. Where we want to, because we have, Paul, we have someone on standby who's going to be talking with us. Is that right? Ben, right?
Yep, we are talking to Ben, I think, under new business.
Okay. So for our work plan, what I provided just seeing if I want to talk about that maybe after Ben, because I provided a little document that I've started, an outline about some of the issues for affordable housing in the process for how to tackle them with, I think the document was attached to the meeting. So maybe what we'll do is bring that up in new business after we have been discussed, and then we can talk about the subcommittees after that. Updates on the affordable housing street sheet. Is that in process? Where are we with that, Paul?
So Barry, for what it's worth, we sent that out in our usual channels with the CD listserv, et cetera. I think we got about 12 suggestions for updates to it. So those are in process right now. I think we can still fit within the 4 quad fold, but we're running out of room there. Definitely looking at the resources in the unit. So I think that's moving along. We have 2 interns working on that right now. So very excited to see what they come up with. The same one who did it last year, which was great. And so we should be able to hopefully have something deliverable in the next month or 2. And we did already reach out to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee at LATSAR. Land of the Sky Association of Realtors. They have agreed to print them again this year, which is great. They printed them for us last year. And we still have, and it's a pretty good, the updates are all pretty small that people have requested, and we still have last year's available. So if anyone wants copies of those, we have them in the building. I'm happy to drop them off, but it has been a really great resource, and thanks for all the input on trying to make it better this year.
Cool. Thank you. Next up, we have an item I think Paul and I discussed, and it's brought into this discussion about infill housing, but the tracking and reporting of the inbound requests. The question I brought last month to this is what are the tools that we are allowed to track with? Like, can we? Because right now these requests all come through you, whether it's developers or people requesting down payment assistance. Do we have the ability, or are we allowed legally to put on the affordable, like on our committee's webpage, an inbound request form, like to use like a Google form that people can fill out, so that way we can compile who's looking for what, even if it's without their name, even if the names aren't provided to us. But is that something that we have the legal ability to add to our webpage? It's something that can track inbound requests of people needing affordable housing or wanting to provide it in some form?
I don't know about legal, and so I don't know if somebody could answer that, or we could always ask that question of Janice. For us, between all of the calls that our department gets, whether it's homeless or affordable housing or developers, it is something that I prefer that our department, our division does not take on, because it is already overwhelming as it is, and then getting the data. However, Barry, as you know, I hopefully show that we're trying to be solution oriented. I have a meeting with 211 tomorrow. I want to see where we can work with a channel that receives affordable housing calls probably more than we do. Although trust, between what we get is a lot. That an organization like 211 United Way that's better set up. What I'm talking to them about tomorrow is there a way for us to figure out to get a dedicated affordable housing hotline that could cover homeless issues, affordable housing issues. I'm looking for affordable housing. We'd of course still get the developer calls, but in my opinion, that is the better solution than adding that on to our team's tracking ability, where we, and looking at our capacity. So I want to see where I can go with that, because to me, the easiest answer to tell anybody who is looking for assistance is call 211. And if we can enhance that for affordable housing, I think that's the better answer in my opinion.
Well, I'm curious on that. Yeah, I've always been asked for some kind of like some way to track it in some kind of database, because I think it would be helpful. Because I know right now everything is coming through you, and it's not, I don't know how it's entered in. And I know like leads management is a lot of work. So I wonder if there is some kind of like Google form or software tool that, they exist. Me as a private builder, we get, it's amazing now, since we build in the affordable range, how many, we get sometimes 10 inquiries a day. And I'm sure, Andy and others are getting it. And I'm trying to think of a way to how, I'm sure if people knew where they could go to say, hey, we're interested to sign up for down payment assistance, to know how many people there are and to know what they're looking for. I think that's the biggest thing that would help, is that data. It's like, or do people need 1-bedroom houses, 2-bedroom houses, 3-bedroom houses? I think that's like how to get the data from all those inbound requests. It's not as much the individual's names, it's the what they're looking for, so we know how to match that up.
And with computer challenges with some folks out there and getting online, that's why, again, dialing 211, I think, is really easy. And they already have those setups to where they can track calls.
Yeah.
How many people does 211 have that are working on this? I've never called 211, so I don't know, but is that a 24/7? Is that a 24/7 thing?
Somebody else on my team might be able to answer that, but I'm having the conversations with some of these questions tomorrow, and I can report back to you all next month.
Okay. Scott?
Paul, I know you're saying obviously community development sounds like it's maxed out. What capacities, if any, are you aware of that either Development Services Department or Planning and Urban Design would have in that realm?
I mean, I don't want to speak for any other departments, but with COVID being completely all additional work that our team is doing, we are a high functioning team, but we are at capacity. We're not against any ideas at all to keep track of these things, but to whether somebody can get online or then they end up calling us and then we're filling out all the data for them. There's a mismatch there at the moment with our capacity. I can't speak for planning and or development services, but I do believe everyone's pretty busy at the moment, but maybe after COVID, we'll have some better news to report.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Hey, Andy, do you think that that's a valuable information to collect? Like, is that something that you at Habitat for Humanity would use if that existed?
Possibly. To Paul's point, my experience in other places, it's nonprofit sector, private sector function that usually does that kind of housing intake coordination and housing, demand research. I'm thinking, there's a model out of the Twin Cities where I was before here that is and I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it's a affordable rental inquiry tool that's been supported in part by fees from property managers who want the data about what people are looking for, that demand data that they're able to put together. So that's a possible model for something like that. I mean, I think we could also, those of you who've been around here longer know that some of that stuff was done by the Affordable Housing Coalition, as I understand it, back, 20 years ago. So there's some precedent for that kind of coordination.
Yeah. So maybe it does look for, like you said, a nonprofit or for-profit even partner that can kind of do that to take it off of. Maybe we'll have some discussions legal. Scott, did you have?
Andy, in Twin Cities, do you know if that was hosted by the Metropolitan Council?
It wasn't, although I do believe they were one of the funders of the organization that did that. And I can find that out. And am I allowed to share that information outside of a meeting, or do I need to just send it the next time we meet?
I think you can send an email out.
Okay.
I'm just curious what capacity Land of Sky Regional Council might have here for something like that.
And it would be a powerful tool regionally, because that's where we're seeing so much growing demand.
Yeah.
Can't afford to be here in the city, and it gets it out of our purview.
So, and so again, just the meeting with 211 is tomorrow. It's we've talked to them before, but this is kind of the first meeting. Again, and not joking here, but not going out of my station here to try to make the offer or discussion. But I would like to know, 211 takes all sorts of calls. I don't know what a dedicated affordable housing hotline looks like and what would that cost. But that is some of the questions I'll be asking tomorrow. If y'all have any suggestions on things to ask there, I personally think that is a great way to keep track of the data. But I do certainly, hear where, Barry, you're trying to go with this. And I think this whole group on this screen knows we do. One thing our team does is we respond to every phone call or email for people looking for resources. We try to guide them in the best directions possible. We'll continue to do that. The data collecting and data management, just let's see what we can do there if that works for you all.
Okay. Hey, Dewana, are you on? Can I ask you a question? I was going to ask Dewana, what, I'm not sure if she's on, but what,
I'm here.
Okay, Dewana, what are the reasons, how do you, so if you were, I guess from your perspective, what would be the easiest method if people needed, people from the public were needing to ask, these are my needs, and whether it's for rental or I want to buy a house and use the down payment, what would be the most accessible way for people to contact, in your opinion?
I think I like the 211 idea that Paul was speaking to, or some form of a housing line, because a lot of times people like going to the website, y'all have made it very accessible, Paul, and it's not to take away from that, but to say that navigating that process for a lot of people can be frustrating and challenging. And so if they had a line that they can call and get the information on how to navigate the website, or like pose those direct questions, I don't think that our economic development department needs to kind of like Paul's department needs to manage that, because that can be overwhelming. And I'm actually managing it for self-help right now. So I know it can be overwhelming with the questions and a little bit of the hand-holding type of thing. So like, I really think having a phone number, everybody are not tech savvy. Yes, this is the times, and especially due to COVID, we have been virtual a lot with a lot of programs and everything, but everybody are not keen to this computer navigation thing. And I think the phone would be the best option, because you can just give them a number and be like, call them. And then there's somebody that's all about housing. You know what I mean? That can specifically speak to housing and what are the resources out there. I like that 211 idea, and I really hope that it's a productive conversation, because that would be amazing. And then everybody knows 211. You know, like everybody that I'm working with on the housing side, whether it's rental or home ownership, they know that 211 is where you go to figure out where the resources are at.
And Tawana, thanks for that. And internally we're calling it 2111. And so whatever that turns out to be, we don't know. But that is the home ownership questions would be great to take as well, because so many people don't know how to navigate that world. So it would be all encompassing, and eventually, Forsyth County, I believe it is, and outside of Winston-Salem, like they have a home ownership center, an affordable home ownership center. That one day, wouldn't that be great? To have a place where these nonprofits involved in this, you could actually go in to talk to somebody, let alone call. Those are dreams of grandeur there. But I think there's some possibility to start with the phone and website. And skipping on the agenda, informal discussion, we will have a new and improved website to navigate. That should be ready by mid-February, thanks to Christina Harris, who is working with me on that. But we will have a much more user-friendly finding information website coming soon, because we also see that as a challenge.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, and thanks everyone for their input on that. And yeah, Tawana, that was really helpful. Because that's really what we want to make sure we want to be the most accessible, and then and I do like maybe this partnering with a nonprofit to be able to compile that data. I just think that the data would be so valuable for what we're trying to accomplish this year. Okay, let's move on. So new business, we have Paul, you have Ben Wright, and so basically just brief us quickly what he's going to be talking about.
Sure. So Ben Wright is a local developer, and a local infill developer that I've been talking to, like when we make first contacts with people, for probably the last 6 months, give or take. And Ben is great, and one of those local developers who wants to be a part of the solution for affordable housing. And so we've been talking quite a bit about opportunities with some land he has. Where's our programs, our policies, our subsidy? What could work with him? Ben really presents the case from his side of view very well about some challenges and struggles, working through, whether it's my department or DSD or planning. And so Ben is our test case as an infill developer who is trying to work through the process, who's got a parcel that he's trying to develop. I think he's going to talk a little bit about that. And then he'll talk about like a little exciting news about a meeting we have next week. But Ben Wright, happy to introduce him. He's been great to work with.
Ben, are you there? I think I saw Christina was working on it. It's helping you get unmuted.
And
you all hear me?
Waiting on Ben, I've got a slideshow for him.
Okay. Awesome. Well, hi everyone, and thanks, Paul. If you don't mind sharing the presentation, just a quick 5-10 minute presentation, and we can get started. Well, hello everyone. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Ben Wright, like Paul mentioned. I've been in Asheville for going on 6 years now, and we own a company called Mountain to Sea LLC. The company is comprised of myself and my wife, Kate, and 2 other people, Colin and Ashley Helgeson. We're a little bit different in the sense that Ashley is a lead cardiologist here at Mission. Colin has extensive building background, specifically in the affordable housing space in the Baltimore area. And then my wife and myself are both in technology. I work for a company out of the Silicon Valley area, my wife out of Minneapolis. So it's nice because we don't need to work on builders margins as much. And we've found that we can get fairly creative with what we do. And when you have a passion for providing, affordable housing in advantageous zip codes with access to healthcare and schooling, it's kind of nothing can stop you as long as you get creative. At least that's what we found. And we have a propensity to find properties and dirt. In the last year, we are a smaller infill developer, but in the last 12 months, we have accumulated around 10 properties, 11 properties, as well as 10 pieces of dirt in the 28804 and 01 area codes. Really quickly, we'll start with the 330 Barnard Project, which I'm so excited. I've been working with Paul. We've just begun this journey on this project, and then talk a little bit about creative thinking, which Barry, you kind of hit you were a great lead into that subject of what I'm going to be discussing, and then just finish with any questions, if that's okay with you all.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, Paul, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So this is, and you can just click through I think it's a building slide. I think the slide builds, but you don't need to build it. The one up, sorry. Should be, you should be able to click in and actually, there should be verbiage on that. I don't think you're in PowerPoint. I don't know if you guys mind me presenting. Paul's not in PowerPoint, so we can't see any of the words, which are pretty important.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's not coming up on my end.
No worries.
Christina, is that okay if he presents?
Hey, Paul, Christina here. I believe that should be fine, but in the future, we should work on a better way of, making sure that we can present those. But thank you, Benjamin. Continue.
Okay. Can you all see my screen now? Oh, it should be.
Yeah, there it goes. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Great.
And if you were going to present mode, that's great. Awesome.
Am I in present? So you guys see the presenter mode, huh?
You're good.
Okay, cool. Perfect. So this is our 332 project. 330 Barnard Project. You can see this kind of map here. This survey is essentially what could be if we were to really go in and develop this property. It's RS8 zoned, but when we had an early assistance meeting, it wasn't from an affordable housing standpoint, and so you can just kind of disregard this 7 through 15, and we're going to be looking at 1 through 6 today. Some specs on the property. It's 1 block to UNCA. It is RS8 zoned, which means we can take advantage of the cottage development standards. I think the maximum potential for this, because of the area, is probably multiple high-end homes. 1 through 6 could be $400,000, $500,000 homes easily. The block above it has a number of $1 million homes, and I think our ideal use is we create 6 duplexes in that same space, actually a little bit smaller of a space, that are duplexes vertical in nature, saving more green space and decreasing costs for us while providing affordable houses, all of which the 12 units would be voucher accepted duplexes. I should have prefaced with, we have a early assistance meeting from the affordable standpoint next week. So I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to report back next meeting or the meeting after the meeting to follow on, how we've kind of tried to get creative with the city and zoning and planning and what the feedback has been. Unfortunately, I don't have much of that up front because we haven't had that meeting. I will say from our prior early assistance meeting, some of our hurdles that we're looking at are zoning restrictions in general, mainly the opposition to quote unquote duplexes and townhomes. Shared walls seems to be so RS8 allows for multiple homes, and the cottage development actually allows for up to 15 homes within a cottage development within a 1,400 square feet. And so from a density standpoint, we're fine as it pertains to city zoning. But because of, some rigid rules or zoning on duplexes or townhomes, even though the density fits, the use doesn't, right? And we haven't really heard a good reason or anything behind why that's the case. But essentially, if we could share walls, those 6 would, squunch up, saving more green space. It also makes us, of course, cheaper to build and easier to provide that affordable housing for. Also, infrastructure costs, having to create, which I think you all have heard before, infrastructure costs are absolutely a large concern when it comes to building in the 2804 area code. So the idea with the affordable housing early assistance meeting is, how do we conquer these seemingly conquerable challenges, right? And how do we make this work? And so that's what this specific project is, at least the phase 1 of it. And so we're excited to hopefully, get creative with the city, get creative with planning and zoning, and put 12 units that are affordably built and also very nice in nature and would be absolutely market rentable or market sellable, but allow affordable voucher holders in good standing to come and be in a good zip code and have that good access to the education, the healthcare, and transit into town. Any questions or thoughts on this specific project? Again, I'm excited to kind of follow up as we go down this path with the city and with Paul.
Yeah, so go ahead, Margie. Sorry.
So Ben, if you're accepting vouchers, that's a rental property. That's a rental type of unit. But you also mentioned home ownership. So are you thinking of splitting them so you would have 6 of one and 6 of the other?
This specific one we would keep as a rental.
You would keep all of them to the rental. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We have triplexes on either side of these, and so this parcel of land we would want to keep within Mountains to Sea. We do have others that we would be amenable to for home ownership. The
one thing I'll share now, this is great. This case study is great because this is exactly the kind of the barriers to share with the committee to show that how we can focus on changing. The cottage development is one that I've helped change the rules on, but they're still darn near impossible, especially in that RS8 zoning. So RS8 zoning does not doesn't allow multiple units on the property unless it's used through the cottage development. And then the cottage development does not allow duplexes. It doesn't allow attached. It's very specific. That is neat, but so right now the zoning would not allow that to be attached. I've tried it. I've been told no. But that is this is a good example of something that here's someone who wants to provide and wants to do the right thing, and our zoning laws stop him from that, and that's an easy change for us to do. And there's easy tools. Sometimes we don't, and there's tools to make those changes happen that we as citizens can initiate. But thanks for sharing.
And thanks, Barry and Paul here. Ben, I think that might be all you've got for us. And I'm looking at our time, about 10:34. So we've got a couple other things, but But Ben has been great to be the start of this, and I think this is a great focus for this committee and walking through. So I do want to make sure to thank Ben for being, our guinea pig for this. Ben?
Yeah. No problem. And Paul, do you mind if I just take one more minute?
You got it.
Sure.
Okay. So Barry, you mentioned inventory is scary, and we all know that, right? And the problem with new construction is even if you want to sell something for $250, but a piece of land in the 2804 area code is at least 50,000 bare minimum, that's never going to work from a developer standpoint, right? On a small infill parcel of land. What we've really started to focus on is trying to take existing market rate and multiple family units and translate that back into affordable. One of the things that we were discussing with Paul was on this specific quadplex, this use case was they were asking $499 for it. We were looking for potentially a little of assistance to purchase the down payment. So $25,000 a unit or $20,000 a unit even to make that down payment. Now we would pay that back on a good scale with a good interest rate. But this one, for example, when we started talking, I started thinking we could have just made this, we could have literally turned this into affordable units and sold them for under $175 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath unit. This is less than half a block away from Jetty Braes, right? Walkable to town, an advantageous zip code. And we would have put some money into it to make them very nice 2-bedroom, 1-bath units, right? And I know historically you all are spending up to $80,000 a unit for affordable. So I think just thinking creatively on an example like this, where we can take $25,000 a unit, pay that back almost immediately, and provide 4 2-bedroom, 1-bath units as close to town as you can get on an ownership standpoint, can be very powerful. And I could this is one, but I could give you 6 of them right now that I've looked at. So just something to think about. The developer side on the grand scale is one thing, but there are creative infill developers and creative people that like to give back on the affordable side that can flip. But it's very hard to find out if we're even qualified for the funding, because of the fund is going to take maybe 60 to 90 days and we can't, nobody's going to wait 60 to 90 days to close on this thing. So just something else I wanted to plug. And I look forward to, speaking with you all more and getting creative on fixing the solution.
And Ben, if I can jump in quickly, it's Paul here. It's not very often you get a developer to call you up that wants to flip market to affordable. So it's very exciting. And of course we can, Ben's got he's eyeing other projects. We'll see how it all goes because the challenges of our trust fund, we think that this is a legal use of housing trust fund dollars. We're going to be updating that policy, but very exciting, flipping market to affordable, if we can do it. So thanks, Ben, for the thought.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Real life cases really help us kind of apply, really review of what the barriers are and how we need to kind of tackle the changes. Thank you.
You got one more slide, Ben?
Thank you. Nope, that's it. Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, all right, Ben. Thank you.
All right. There's on the agenda the Ashland Avenue development. Is there something? What ones?
Yeah. So I believe we've got Barry Combs on the line, who just wants to provide an update to the Ashland Avenue potential development there. And also we've got Nikki Reed available too to answer questions. But Brian, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year. Glad to be here. I'll err on the side of brevity. I know our time is already running long. In the 2 months since we met on November 5th, we presented at HCD on the 17th of November, and Julie and Shanika approved our proposal, and it's moving on to be voted before City Council in February. The city also gave Haywood Street formal permission to start neighborhood engagement, which we have done in earnest. We've had quite a few conversations with the county. Numerous commissioners, including Brownie, will be submitting our application for 2021 allocation. continue to be in dialogue with the city. We've had a number of meetings about community engagement, talking with council members, and including newly elected ones. We've met with the Dogwood Health Trust. Sarah Grimes is the new director of affordable housing. We've had a couple of site visits with her. We had a recent presentation with Dogwood's board, their new interim ED, and various staff about progress with Ashland. I've personally met with the IMA, the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, a number of clergy men in particular. A number have asked for information that I have sent forward. We've received a number of significant affirmations of support from them, and one ask of one clergyman in particular is for Haywood Street to mentor them so they can do their own project, which of course we're happy to do. Our community development board is meeting regularly. We've had a number of subcommittee meetings about neighborhood engagement, and we're talking with sister agencies about letters of support for our proposal in Ashland. And then most significantly, we have been very active in the South Side neighborhood. We've made over 125 contacts. We've reached out to every business, nonprofit, school that we can find a phone number or an email for. I'm sure we've missed a few, but everybody we can locate a contact for, we've followed up with. Everyone that called in to HCD or has reached out to the city, we have followed up with as well that has a contact. We've had quite a few conversations with neighbors, especially on Blanton Street, sometimes 4, 5, 6 conversations with each neighbor. We have a presentation with the YWCA tomorrow, and in the coming days, we'll be sending out a packet to everyone that has expressed interest, concern about our proposal that will include a site map, elevation drawings, and a fact sheet. Nearly 4 pages of Q&A that have come up over the past 2 months that will inform many of the questions that are out there. So that's a brief overview of what we've been up to over the past 2 months, and we'll continue all of this work up to the vote in February and after that as well.
And hey, Brian, we really appreciate you being here. I'm not sure, Nikki Reed is on the call. I'm not sure if she wants to add anything. Nikki, do you want me to share the screen that I was inadvertently preparing to share that I didn't know I was sharing? But to show the project page that we're about to start, and I can just show the top part of it, just to give I think a picture's worth 1,000 words, and Brian put in some work for this. So if you're good with that, Nikki, I could share it real quick.
Sure, and I think that's just an update from the city side. We are preparing a project page to be published onto the city's website about the project, as well as our frequently asked questions page too, of the information that we've gotten. We also plan to do a site on the city's public input page, and so that will allow for people that have feedback to post their input there and have dialogue with the city that way. We've been getting a lot of emails about this project, and we're keeping track of those and trying to ensure that we're being responsive in that manner to listen to those concerns. But we are scheduled. There are 3 specific decisions that require a council authority here. The first, on February 23rd, we'll be going in front of council with the land sale proposal. And so that's going to be the first decision that comes before council. That was what the HCD had voted on in November. And then later on, we'll be following up with the housing trust fund allocation, as well as a conditional zoning that should happen later in the year. But we're taking that February 23rd date to address the land proposal.
Any questions for Nikki or Brian? Barry?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you. Appreciate the update. I know we do have some public comment that's come in that we'll discuss right at the end, and I think there was something specifically about this. So we'll get to that at the end. I'm sure about that. Anything else on this, or I guess not? I'm gonna move on. I guess I should ask anyone from committee. Anyone have any questions for them while they're still here? Good. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks.
Next up, Yes, thanks. So what I want to, since our time's running out, but I do want to. So I want to hit really quick that document that was attached, but I do want to know first from Paul. There's on the agenda. There's some stuff about CDBG and home applications and 4% bond tax credits. Do you have something that you're presenting on about that in this meeting?
No, is that under the news section? I think, Barry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Want to make sure everyone.
How much time you need.
I'll be real brief. If you want me to do it now, knock it out, Barry, or you want me to wait?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
So
no, let's go ahead and knock that out just so I can.
Yes, sir. CDBG and home applications are on our website. They are ready to go. So we put those out before Christmas. So if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me. That's for fiscal year 21-22. Thanks to the whole CT team. We had a lot of HUD deadlines at the end of the year. This was one of them to get up our applications, so they're ready to go. And there was some good news about the 4% bonds and the tax credits. Margie probably might add something here later. We could talk about it later, but basically whatever law or whatever was changed, the gap that comes with a 4% bond for tax credit housing is non-competitive. It's usually about $5 million, give or take. I'm being very general here. That gap is basically cut by about 25%-ish. So a very simple story is what was $5 million might now only be $4 million. So it makes it a little bit more affordable to do 4%. We sure are hoping to see more 4% up in this area. And, I think that is a great partnership opportunity with the county every two or three years, as I always try to repeat that partnership opportunity with them. But those are just two things I think are exciting to point out. Thanks, Barry.
Great. There's also a note, it doesn't have a time, there's also a note on the agenda about policies, short-term rentals for affordable housing and Luigi for homeownership.
Sure. So just to show, Barry, your commitment that I'm not stuck in DPA policy world, I have started a draft for STR. How can we possibly use short-term rentals for affordable housing, as well as can we find a way to use the land use incentive grant for home ownership? So these are two policies that I'm just drafting on my own time with work, trying to figure out that may or may not come forward. I've got to get a little direction from the second floor and city management, but we're looking at an additional revenue stream from STRs. And the home ownership challenge, as we talked about earlier, is alive and well. Can we use Luigi for home ownership? And something also that isn't on here, but it'll be on next month is, do we want to go up to 100% AMI for home ownership? I think it's worth a discussion. It's hard enough to hit a price at $199 or $225 for 80% AMI. Should we offer some subsidy to 100% AMI? That's kind of what Charlie Pond, as Margie brought up earlier, was asking about. So just a couple things that might be bubbling up in the next couple months.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, those are big issues. All right, so what I'm going to roll to really briefly before I go into public comment is in the so there's a document that was attached to the meetings. It's about kind of the I call it kind of the affordable housing construction process. So what I want to in as a work plan item and as kind of a basis for how we can explore what subcommittees we could create. So this document, if you pull up, I think it says on it, AHAC priorities, affordable housing components. And I basically broke up the process of how we create affordable housing from, into sections. One is called land, and that just kind of discusses, the concept of locating suitable land, the financing for the land, the infrastructure that's needed to make land developable. Then a section called build, which is really then for building the homes, the construction process, the financing process for construction, what subsidies we have, how to, as we discussed earlier, how to engage builders to spread the lower profit load, and then look at different kind of creative ways, whether it's prefab homes or tiny homes, or different ways alternative ways we can build for helping to bring costs down. And then another section called Connect, which is, Connect to me is the reaching all the people that are needing affordable housing, whether it's rentals or homeownership, and the developers that are willing to be part of the solution. So I look at those, those three items that, it's kind of the land, because that gets into what we can identify all the barriers are in land development, land acquisition, that we could focus on how to, what changes we can make. So as a committee, we can take these three items, I look at it, the land, the building, and then connecting with people, and how we can create actionable items off of those, create maybe 3 separate subcommittees or 2 subcommittees that we could then work on parallel throughout the month and bring in other members of the public on. But that's, so this is, we don't have much time in this meeting, but I just want to kind of outline maybe my thoughts behind this. And then if throughout the month, if each of you would kind of look at that, and then when we reconvene next month, we could talk about what subcommittees to create from that. Do we need a separate committee for land and separate one for building, or do we combine that into land and building and then another one just connecting? But I'd like you, to take this, and then let's, that's my background on this. I see these are the steps for creating affordable housing. And then in each of these, to identify the barriers and where we can collect the data points, and then to focus on those with actionable items that subcommittees can have. So that's my, thought behind this. Open for, we've got to get to public comment, but I'm open to, if anyone has any questions on that right now that you want to ask before we kind of take this into thought, and then we'll have a deeper discussion on this next month. Andy?
Yeah, Barry, I think this does a really good job breaking down the sort of the supply side solutions on affordable housing, but I don't want us to get locked in this framework and miss the demand side solutions like tenant-based rental assistance, like, obviously some of those things here as you're, in your connect heading, but there's a lot of work that needs to, to be considered around in that, the connecting point between the units and the household around, whether that's tenant education, whether that's homeownership education, financial literacy, credit repair, all of the things that have to happen in order to make that an effective connection. So again, maybe it all lands there. I just don't want us to get so kind of boxed into a production. And I'm saying that as a reminder to myself as a housing developer, to not get so locked into a production mindset that we miss those supply side tools for affordable housing.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think the connecting, it's kind of, it's how to engage on the those who need and those who can provide the needs. But I think, what we're trying to do is come up with, a work plan for the year that it's much more targeted than it's been in the past, and it actually has some actionables on it, which we need so badly. But so what I'd ask is, we can make this as an editable Google document. I think that way, if there's ideas we want to add onto it, and then we can next meeting look at subcommittees we can create, or where each of you would want to take a lead in either of those issues, and then how to expand what they should involve, or if there's any other specific items that we're missing on that. But the goal is to create from really actionable items that we can focus on as a committee. Like, it's literally like change the cottage development so duplexes can be allowed, and to look at real world examples that are hindering development, and how we can get through that. Any other questions on that? Thank you. Thanks for
Barry.
Yeah, I look forward to just a deeper discussion on that next month, and how we could look to create some actionables. Let's see.
So, but Barry, before you go to public comment, just one quick thing is that next Tuesday at 10 o'clock, I believe it is our first meeting. It's what you would call like a pre-TRC, pre-technical review committee that developers can ask for. This is the first one we're really focused on affordable housing with an affordable housing infill developer with the challenges. And that's with Ben Wright, who did the presentation a bit ago. So very excited about that first meeting. We've got willing departments at the table. So we're going to see what kind of compromise can come out of that. It's kind of exciting.
Paul, Margie, is that available to the public to listen in? I mean, typically I go to TRCs when we used to be in person. I just go and listen, but
TRCs are not, or TRCs are, but pre-TRCs are not. It's a preliminary discussion with just the developer that they request, but TRCs for sure are.
Yeah, I usually go to them, or not.
Yeah, I think this is just a pre-app. It's a pre-app meeting, which then it should be the documents that are created from the pre-app meeting it should be in the development services portal as something that the public can review after the meeting has happened. But this is kind of it's when the developer has that opportunity to ask those questions that they'll be told by the city no in so many things. And then how we can, like, no, you can't do duplexes in a cottage development or, but the results from that should be public on the development services portal.
And I can follow up on that and check with Chris Collins just to make sure what the protocol is on all that kind of stuff. Barry, about people attending the meeting. Ben Wright, who is just super transparent about stuff, offered he didn't mind if other people joined, but I've certainly got to check with the other Chris Collins and them. But regardless, we'll be updating you all on February 4th, if not sooner.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So we do have 3 public comments for this meeting. Public comments, end at 5 p.m. the day before the meeting. People can email in or record over the telephone number provided. These were, I believe, all emailed in. I'm going to, because I read those. Is that right, Christina?
Yes, that's correct, Barry.
Okay. So yes, and I do share, because we also have had emails for our department, for our committee, and for others, the public comment process is flawed. For lack of a better word, I would say for all committees, that there's no way that a public can call in during a meeting or submit comments for that meeting, that it's not an open agenda item for anything, even for a council meeting. So the process is people have to email in beforehand, the day before. So I'm going to go ahead and read what we have. We have from Tracy Rosman that was received on January 6th. This is regarding the proposal to give an acre of city-owned land on Ashland Avenue to the Haywood Street Church. Land in question was acquired during urban renewal in the late 1960s. After forcibly removing the families who owned and lived on that land, some since the mid-1940s, the land was designated as a buffer park to be used for recreational and open space purposes. However, instead of creating a park that would have enriched the neighborhood and the lives of residents, the land was left as is. By failing to act for nearly 50 years on its intentions to create useful open space, the city has added insult to the injury of urban renewal and compounded its culpability. To remove the Ashland property from inclusion in the reparations resolution discussions is wrong. Please do not move forward with this project. Next public comment does not have a name, but it has an email has an email provided. And I believe these are going to be attached, attached to our meeting documents. Christine and I talked about ahead of time, so anyone can review them as public comments. But this one, I'm just not sure if I should read someone's email out. But this one reads, going into the year 2021, what is considered, quote, affordable housing in Asheville, North Carolina? What criteria is measured to determine the quality and location of affordable housing? That was the end of that. Very valid question. I think it's something where, we brought up at this meeting and we'll probably discuss in the future. What is it, what should our committee be focused on? Is it up to 100% or should we not go up to 100%? The last comment. Last comment is from John Bay and Kay Elliott, and it says, "We object to the proposed Haywood Congregation project on Ashland Avenue and want an open discussion with our Southside neighbors." Thank you, John Bay and Kay Elliott. Those were public comments received. Does any of our committee have comments or anything they'd like to add or say about those public comments?
I would like to speak to the Haywood Street Church and the Ashland property.
Sure.
And I guess I got a question for Paul, or our city officials that are on here now. So it has been approved, or are we at the position where we as a committee can review the public comment, look into it, and kind of have any say? Is that a place, like, where is that actual conversation at, or that process at with the Haywood Street Church around that urban renewal land?
And absolutely, I can take that question. Hi, Dewana. This is Nikki Reed again. Right now, we are scheduled for City Council to review the proposed land sale to Haywood Street on February 23rd. So that'll be coming forward for a council vote at that time. The HCD committee reviewed it in November and provided an endorsement at a 2-1 vote to approve that sale to Haywood Street. However, it still requires full council approval to occur. And so we are working towards that February 23rd meeting to have that review and that council decision at that time.
One last question. Was there any specific reason why it wasn't included as a part of the reparations referendum, given that it is urban renewal land? And I know that in a previous AHEC meeting, we had some quick discussion around how do we look at that list of city-owned properties and that designation of those areas. I'm sorry, my baby's screaming in the background. Sorry. So, but the and like looking at those city-owned properties that were taken through urban renewal as a part of reparations and separating that list out and getting a clearer picture. I know that they were going to look at that and bring that back to us, a list of what that looks like. I'm not sure if that happened at a meeting that I didn't attend, but I know that has been part of our conversation. So I'm just wondering, why wasn't it like included given the history of that property prior to it going to HCD? Like, more conversation in our arena in the AHEC than we get in the public comments around it.
And in terms of the urban renewal properties, we have been working on a map of the properties that the city came to own through urban renewal. That's being worked on actively right now, and we're hoping to get that published as soon as we can. Some properties, it's very clear of that lineage in terms of it being bought through that urban renewal program. Others, it's a little more unclear. And so we're just wanting to be above board about that and be clear about what properties that we know came through urban renewal and what that we may have questions on. It is clear, however, that this site did come through urban renewal. Some research that was provided by Patrick Balls did also share with us the details of that. And we're including that information on the city's website so that it's transparent in terms of how that property came to be. Now, with respect to Haywood Street, there have been conversations about their desire to build affordable housing in this area that predated the decision to postpone the sale of city properties related to urban renewal. So that's why it was exempted from that decision.
So they had previously submitted a proposal, or like, I'm just, because it is a lot of community conversation around this, and it's a lot of upset. It's a lot of upsetting. It's upsetting to especially the Black community that this is not in that reparations consideration, this land was not in there, and that is going to, regardless of what the purpose of its use is, it was taken through urban renewal, regardless of the, like, and so I'm just dealing with a lot of those questions and concerns in my role in the many hats that I play within the community. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand and what's going on with that. So it hasn't been approved by City Council yet. That's February, but it has been approved by HCD 2-1. All right.
Yeah.
Quickly here if you would like, Nikki, when the project page is approved and up, we can share that through the community development listserv, if that works for everybody as an outreach opportunity. Brian, I'm sure. Okay, I'll do that.
Great. All right. Thank you. It's public comments are such an important part of our committee and what we do. And I'm glad we had some comments this time, and I'm glad it opened up a little bit of a discussion that's so important. And thank you. I also want to make a special note. With the way the Zoom is, right now I only see so many faces on our meeting, and that, when we did the roll call, I did not mention that our new council rep, Councilwoman Mosley has joined us, and I thank her for that, and I really look forward to her participation in our committees, and I believe you Councilwoman Mosley, are also on the HCD seat.
Sorry, yes, I am.
Yeah.
Signed to that committee recently too.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to having a good relationship with and with you, and also with having having you engaged with our committee and affordable housing needs. So thank you. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to bring or add before we move forward?
I just wanted to ask you, is it possible, I don't know how this would work, but if I'm able to get out the DPA draft staff report or the changes, it might not be the whole staff report, but I might make it really small and focus on the changes. If I was able to get those out, I don't know if we could have a quick emergency meeting. Christina knows better than me about that. Perhaps, but Christina and I can talk, but I'm shockingly wide open Wednesday morning. I didn't know if everyone else had a chance while we were on this call to look at their calendars. So if we just needed to hold some time, i.e. there is concerns, questions, people want to have their voices heard, etc. I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's possible with working with all this virtual public comment, making that all happen, but I would to at least throw that out there and get a quick poll from folks who maybe have some time, an hour on Wednesday, January 13th, a.m. 8:30, 9 a.m. for 1 hour. I don't know, Barry, if you want to do a show of hands or something, or.
Yeah, so I'd say we can go that route, or yeah, it looks like there's interest in that. The other one is to make sure, and I think I will make sure that we're just available for a slot to discuss with HCD at the meeting, but if it sounds like, I guess let's just show some thumbs up, hands up, if we want to have a special meeting ahead of time on that.
Could everyone hold their time from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Wednesday the 13th, please? And we will get back to you, if that's okay for me, Barry.
I see too, Andy, you're not thinking?
I'm already booked at that time.
Okay.
If I get the stuff to you, Andy, could you make comments to send to us since it seems to work for others? Okay.
That'd be fine. If that's available.
Yeah.
You can always call me, give me a message.
Yeah. We're saying Wednesday the 13th.
9 a.m. And even do 8:30 if y'all want to, if that's even better.
Okay. So I guess
just
let's
1 hour, and then if there wants to be discussion, we can make it happen.
How about we tentatively say we're doing that, and then I think we do need to check with legal and some other, to make sure that that's okay. If not, though, I will make sure though that at the HCD meeting that I ask for a slot for AHAC to provide input, and I'll put that on my calendar to make sure. I'm not in front of my calendar to check if I'm available next Wednesday, but I will.
And I have that draft agenda, Barry, so I can add that for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that, Paul. Thank you, everybody. Anything else before we adjourn? Guess not. Okay. I will now adjourn the meeting unless there's any objections. So adjourned. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.